This video is from Max-Flo manifold maintenance. Manifold Max-Flo such as this one are seen on Shocker Sports and Impulses. And additionally, the vertical Max-Flo rags that came on Impulses up until about 2005 were also the same thing as this, except they were in a vertical position. So if you have one of those, then you can still use this video. These rags are older and larger, as you can see, but they're pretty easy to take apart. This is the benefit of being large. In order to access the rag, which is this piece, you have to loosen these 4 screws on the bottom. I'm going to just crack the Allen heads. Alright. Now remove all the screws. Them all up. This piece is called the manifold clamp. It obviously just pops right off once the screws are gone. The manifold is located here, and the rag just pops right in. I'm just going to pull it off like that. Now, the manifold doesn't need to do any maintenance on it unless it leaks. If it does leak, then you'll have to adjust this valve. And if the Max-Flo sticker in the front leaks, then you can unscrew this and replace the O-ring located on it. But besides for that, there's nothing you need to do here. This has a bunch of pressure in it, so I'm not going to take the tank off, obviously. Set the tank aside. The regulator itself is the piece you need to worry about here. To begin with, just unscrew the end cap. It pops out. Inside the end cap are a number of things: filter element, bumper, spring guide, and then the spring guide pin. They're assembled in this order, and they have to go in like that. I'm just going to put them back in. Filter element goes in first, then the bumper, the spring, the guide, and then on the pin, one end will be round and the other end will be flat. The flat end goes down into the guide. Set that aside. Now, piston is located in the front here. I'm just going to pull that out. Drop it there. Be a bunch of grease inside. You can clean that off. The piston itself will probably be kind of dirty, as it is here. So I'm just going to clean that off with a napkin. You can also use paper towel or anything you have available. There's lots of old grease on this. Set that down. To continue disassembly of the regulator, gotta flip it around to this retaining nut in the back and use this large 3/8 inch wrench, Allen wrench. Unscrew the nut. When the nut comes off, this brass piece will be sitting here. This is a poppet guide. Tip everything up, and most of the internals will fall out. In this case, everything fell out. That's exactly what I want. Poppet guide is the part you saw on the top. It's located there. This is the spring guide. It has a filter around it. The poppet is this elongated piece with a spring. And then this small disc-shaped thing is called the base seat. It breaks apart into 2 pieces. I'll do that in a second. The other part that came out is this 1070 O-ring, which is just dropped down into the housing there. This particular O-ring doesn't have to be cleaned or replaced, so I'm just going to put that back in there, drop it down. Now in terms of cleaning, what you need to do is take a Q-tip, stick it down inside this housing, and make sure there's no grease down there. It's okay if there's a little bit, but you know, it's good to be dry. The poppet is the part that seals the regulator, so you need to clean off this angled flared section and also clean off the back for a thorough cleaning. The sealed section, the flared section in the front is very important, so that's what you need to work with. Now this base seat here is actually a 2-part assembly. You can use your fingernail or a tool to break the 2 apart. This is the base, this is the cap. Inside the two is this 990 O-ring, which is the main sealing O-ring of the reg. So if your reg is recharging very slow, and you may wish to replace this, and there's another couple things that can cause it, but it wouldn't hurt to replace that. In this case it's an okay O-ring, so I'm just going to leave it there. Take the seat cap, just pop it back down, and it sort of snaps into position. And that's good to go. At this point everything is cleaned off, as long as you've cleaned all the surfaces, so you can go ahead and re-grease some parts and put it back together. The only thing you need to re-grease here is put a small amount on this larger rear portion of the poppet. You just put a small amount on there at the very end, and that's okay. Put the spring back on around it. Set that aside. Now on this hat-shaped piece, poppet guide, there's an O-ring on the outside and an O-ring on the inside. You can stick a little bit of grease on the outside O-ring, grease it up. The inside O-ring will be greased by the poppet, so you don't have to worry about that. Set that down. Now, poppet fits into this base seat to the two angled surfaces go together, like that. The flat surface goes down into the reg body, which is what I'm going to do right now. Spring guide goes in on top, and then this poppet guide goes in on top of all that. The last piece is a retaining nut. Slides on and tightens down. That's the input side of the reg. The output side consists of the piston, which you have to re-grease with a nice good coat. Make sure the O-ring's covered. And then just drop it into the front. Push it in and out a couple times to distribute the grease. End cap just goes on the front. Screws on. Once the reg's been cleaned off, you can reassemble it with a manifold simply by taking the two, aligning them together into position. Manifold clamp goes down, and reinstall the 4 manifold clamp screws. I'm only going to do these 2. Once you get all the screws on there, regulator is done.